A Look at Finance is underwritten by Janney Montgomery Scott, trusted advisors for generations.
Well, welcome back, everyone. It's Thursday, my favorite day, because Steve Carleton is here from Janney, first vice president.
First vice president, thank you.
Woo, how do you get to be better than the first vice president? Yeah. Is it like the Uber first vice president?
It is quite a leap. It is quite a leap. Yeah, this is just the entry level. Yeah, I would rather go with James Bond's title, Commander. I think that would be great.
Let's just go right to Emperor and let's just go,
let's
just go right.
It feels like a Friday, doesn't it?
Yeah, it certainly does. I think we're acting like it's a Friday also. Good reason for that. Memorial Day weekend is coming up. This week is traditionally pretty quiet in your world.
Yeah,
right, leading up to it, everybody's kind of excited to have that first weekend. Yeah. But one thing that affects the economy, I don't care if it's national or it's local, gas prices.
Everybody's talking about it.
Yeah, so give me a little bit of that. You follow this.
Oh, I do, because consumer spending is so influenced by the cost of fuel. People are driving to work every day and everything else, and so people on tight budgets, this kind of thing can hamper spending. So this is the day where gas prices go up 8, 12, 15 cents a gallon.
That's quite a leap.
And it's an important leap. So what I always like to say to people, if you haven't got gas, go and get it today, because tomorrow morning you're going to wake up and gas prices are going to be higher.
Right. Now I think that there is... I'm not exactly sure of this statistic, but pretty certain that this is the biggest driving weekend of the summer.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you might think it might be Labor Day or it might be 4th of July, but for some reason this one, I think it's the idea that it's the first one, so off we go.
Everybody, it's finally nice out. We've had such a long winter. And so what do you got to do? When you're out doing these long road trips, use your cruise control. $4 plus a gallon, use your cruise control. Check your tire pressure. I see people driving around with winter tires still, and the tires are really soft. You got to check the tire pressure.
So no end to your financial advice. You get right down to tire pressure.
Well, I'm a car guy, right? I'm a car guy.
I was going to say, you should talk about cruise control.
I was at the lights out towards Wilton, and this woman had her front left tire was way down tire pressure-wise. I almost got out of the car. I'm like, listen, you got to pump that up.
So what'd you do? Just toss your business card?
Yeah.
That's what you might do.
Exactly.
Hey, on a slightly more serious note, actually much more serious note, casinos. Still the talk of the counties, and we reported recently, even though talk of the casino is not going into Washington County, the Washington County supervisors were talking about the impact on the local economy. Sure. So it isn't exactly where this casino is going to be located, but the effect on all of the area surrounding it in terms of jobs. They were mentioning something like 1,700 jobs.
There's a halo effect, isn't there?
Yes, sure.
We've talked a lot about livable wages, and there's also just social implications. If we put that aside just for a minute, a lot of these jobs are better paying jobs. A lot of them have benefits, and the small businesses that go around supporting something of this size and magnitude in a community, the peripheral effect is going to be huge. And so not only is there going to be could be 1,700 plus jobs, but all the peripheral add-on effects of that new stimulus. So there are a lot of social issues there, but in the community at large, a lot of new jobs.
And also development issues. We talk to developers and builders, and some of them are not too happy, about it not coming into Saratoga because they're investing heavily in hotels and things like that. But it it's going to have quite an impact on our area.
This is going to be, we're not talking 50, 60, 75 million. The numbers that we're seeing,
right, it's true.
Hundreds of millions.
That's right.
300, plus $1 million. So this is a huge endeavor.
Well, you know what? When we saw the statistics and we reported on this, that they were saying a baseline of $100 million, and I thought to myself, whoa, what an investment. The companies that are talking are in the $300, $350 million range in terms of the investment that they're willing to make. So it's almost like, how big can you go?
Yeah, we're talking a world-class casino. And we're talking about the venues, the entertainment, the facilities that are going to be there. So for New York, I think this is a big thing. We've talked a lot about jobs. This is the kind of element that would come into the community and would be a huge driver on a lot of levels.
It surely will. Okay, stock market. I always like to check in with you from your perspective. We keep seeing record highs. We keep seeing it leveling at over 16,000.
Yeah.
What's going on?
You know what? We joked a couple weeks ago about being in May, sell and go away. This is a quiet time of year, and this is no exception. So a couple really interesting things. So we've had 4 out of the last 5 days are up. Right. But when it comes to actual movement, this is one of the quietest Mays we've seen, going all the way back to 1987. So Very quiet.
Why would outside of the time of the year, I remember you saying to me once, if you don't see any major trends happening, then the stock market kind of just, not cruise control, but cruise control. But it kind of like there isn't a lot of volatility.
You make a good point. So there's been sector rotation. We've gotten out of biotechs and the technology sector, a lot of profit taking there. But I think a lot of people have struggled because there isn't a real clear direction. There's a lot of uncertainty right now. And so in spite of what we had with Russia and Ukraine, with China and some of the the trade issues that we're looking at, the market's held its own. We're only a couple points from the all-time high.
Right.
So when I look at this, I say, this is time to pause. Don't make any big bets. Don't make any big, strong conviction buys. Evaluate.
Yes, right.
Evaluate.
Right.
Take a look at your winners and your losers. Look at your overall strategy. Look at the long-term plan. Evaluate your look like. And this is a quiet time of the year, so making big moves or big reactions usually can be a mistake because there isn't the indicator. I think most people are kind of sitting on the sidelines saying, what's going to happen? Right. Election year coming in, usually very positive.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
encouraging promises news being made. Tends to be bullish, right? Sure, everybody gets excited.
Promise the world. There's going to be all sorts of growth and everything else, money to be spent in all these areas. So typically there's a lot of enthusiasm going into this time of year with the election. But I think this is the time of year where get out the barbecue, spend time with family. Don't worry too much about what's going on. Don't read the tea leaves too deeply at this point, and enjoy a safe time with your family.
Let me cycle back on something that I know very little about. But when you said the word indicators, how does the GDP figure into this and the numbers released regarding that?
Okay, so this is something that's come up a fair bit. So gross domestic product, the amount that the country produces in goods and services, how much we manufacture and we service. So that number was 2.6% in the fourth quarter last year. This first quarter, the initial number came out at 0.1%, so less than 1% growth, lower than expected. Everybody attributed that to the weather. The Federal Reserve has come out and said they expect to be better. A lot of the other people in our industry have said, expect 3+%. So next week is going to be the revised number. They're going to say we have more of the data, and that number next week will be an indicator for us of how it looked last quarter. But you're not going to buy based on last quarter's numbers, but it is an indicator as far as the health. I think the big thing now is to take a look and see what's second, third, fourth quarter looking like.
Let me ask you one follow-up question to that.
Yeah.
A lot of these numbers, when they're released, they get revised. Why do they release them in the first place if they're going to revise them?
So what you get is you get a certain amount of the data comes in and we project. We say we have 60% of the data, 70% of the data, and what we're seeing, it's like making an early call in the election. We don't have the final numbers till the next morning, but because we have enough of the data in, we can make projections and say this is where we think it's going to be. I think it's that same element at work.
Gotcha. One last thing, the Saratoga Showcase of Homes has announced the 14 award-winning builders that they're going to showcase. Now, this happens in the fall every year. But I thought it was an interesting statistic for the local economy that in the 19 years that the Showcase of Homes has been doing these tours, they've given over $825,000 to local charities.
It's a ton of fun to do. You have people coming from all over the area. But you talk about driving the economy. You talk about how dynamic Saratoga, Washington County, this whole area has grown from housing and building development. Think about how much it's changed in the last 18 years. So that's a lot of fun to do in the fall. I really enjoy doing that and meeting some of the people and seeing them in the community. But it's going to be another big one this year because there's a lot of expansion. We talk about the hotels and the building in the area. I think this will be a big year.
They do a mix of private homes and condos and co-ops and the like. All right, so we'll worry about the fall when we get there. Meanwhile, we got Memorial Day weekend.
Barbecuing, yes. I love the barbecue. You know I do.
I know you do. All right, so we'll have a great Memorial Day.
Thanks, Jesse. You too.
Okay, great.
Be safe.
Great to see you. See this interview again? Head to our website, looktvonline.com.